Well, hello and welcome to Generation X-Men, the only show where you get a bunch of Gen Xers to sit around and bitch about how much everything sucks in X-Men now. Because we're old and we're angry and we want you off the lawn. Damn it.
That's right. Get the fuck off my comic book.
I am J.Ishiro Finney, author, an alien in a human suit. And joining me as always is...
I'm Janelle. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I was reading the German in chat because I started learning German. I'm trying to translate it.
So am I.
I know Guten Abend is like good evening or good night. Yeah.
Good evening, yeah. Mach schnell means make quick. Wo wohnst du means how are you?
Well, okay. You haven't introduced yourself, though.
Oh, this is Janelle. I'm Kronk.
Yes, and today we are talking about Jim Shooter, Disco King. Because apparently Janelle got a bunch of facts and found out that we weren't wrong about him loving the disco. So yeah apparently cocaine and white leisure suits were his thing.
To be fair, whose aren't they?
I don't know. When I think white leisure suits, I think of Eddie from Christmas Vacation and the powder blue leisure suit on Christmas Eve.
I forgot that until just now.
Wearing those white lifts, patent leather white lifts. Yeah.
Randy Quaid's the best.
Hell yeah.
Yes, it's too bad he kind of went crazy.
Oh, I think he was telling the truth, though.
Oh, you think so? Well, actually, yeah, the way Hollywood's been acting. But I wouldn't be, if you witnessed all that stuff, you probably cracked too.
Yeah.
I think that, like, with Nick Nolte, too, they're just kind of like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just act like however I want. I don't need the money anymore.
Yeah.
Good. Don't invite me to the parties. Don't invite me to the movie.
Jim Shooter, Disco King.
There he is.
Oh my God, Saturday Night Fever. Good Lord.
So what have you learned, Janelle?
So what I learned from the Classic X-Men channel, I mean, the guy is a font of friggin' knowledge. It's insane. Dazzler, Chris Claremont did not like Dazzler. I have a story that I remember one of my friends who was also into X-Men, they could not understand why I like Dazzler. In fact, a lot of my friends who read X-Men were like, why do you like her? She sucks. And they gleefully told me a story about the time they went to Comic-Con. They went to an X-Men panel and somebody asked who the worst X-Man was. And before they could even finish asking the question, Claremont yelled out Dazzler. He notoriously hated the character.
But he did so much with her.
Well, it's really interesting. The reason she was in X-Men is because Shooter was absolutely in love with her. Obviously, we know this because he wrote a treatment for her own movie, and he made Claremont put her in the book. Now, Claremont went out of his way to change her personality to a bitchy, spoiled diva. And I do say her personality does change from the actual Dazzler comic book. I know this because I have both omnibuses. Yeah. She was much more unsure about herself. She still had some diva-ness to her because, you know, she's trying to be a pop star.
Yeah.
But Claremont went out of his way to make her unlikable. It kind of failed because some fans were like, yeah, she sucks. And other fans were like, dude, her personality may be shit, but her power set is awesome. The other reason let me finish.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
Let me finish. The other reason Claremont could not get rid of her, Mark Silvestri loved drawing her. We definitely know this because her outfits were always awesome. The outfits that she wore when she wasn't in uniform were absolutely awesome. And we have talked about before that Dazzler looked like she was based on, at one point, Olivia Newton-John, and definitely was based on Marie Fredrickson of Roxette later on.
Yeah.
So Claremont and Shooter kept doing like a brinksmanship thing where Claremont would try to make her more unlikable, more bimbo-y, more just annoying. and Shooter would call his bluff, and then fans would be like, her attitude sucks, but holy shit, she can shoot lasers and photons. And oh my God, did you see the latest Sylvester outfit? She was hot as fuck.
Well, I'm going to argue that Claremont, being a good writer, did too good of a job in making her a diva and a bitch, because sure, absolutely, yeah, that was actually one of the attractions, was that she was the one that was going to actually tell you exactly what she thinks. She was the one that was going to hold a grudge, and what, maybe he was trying to get us all to hate Dazzler, but the fact that she did not put up with Rogue's shit. Everyone else would, okay, yeah, you tried to murder us all, but okay, you proved yourself. No, she never let that go. I loved that.
See, that was interesting too, because I think I've spoken about this before. Claremont was absolutely in love with Rogue. He made Rogue. She was an original character. The reason he shoved her into Siege Perilous was to protect her from other books that were trying to take her.
So his dream
And
girl, Southern fire, kind of a Southern firebrand who's from the trailer park.
okay, so yeah. So I think he was trying to make Rogue look better, and it was backfiring, because I've read the Outback era, and I was like, dude, Rogue needs to get her ass slapped. And she does, not only by Dazzler, but also later on by Betsy. And Storm has had words with her too. So I think it was kind of, I think Claremont might have been taken aback by the way fans were like, oh yeah, Dazzler is a bitch, but Rogue absolutely deserves to get chewed out. And it's like, wait, what? So yeah, I agree. He did way too good of a job, because it actually, even though Dazzler was a bitch, made her sympathetic. That scene where like you find out that Longshot's been two-timing this whole time, I was like, oh God, why didn't she fry both of them? And even Alex called Longshot out. So yeah, which now brings me to Longshot. Longshot was created by Ann Nocenti. Everybody knows this. And Ann Nocenti did not want Longshot taken away from her and put in other books. So Claremont, doing a solid for his good friend Ann Nocenti, put Longshot in X-Men to protect Longshot. But he didn't want or like the character either. So he put the two characters he did not like together as a couple. And then as soon as he could, with Siege Perilous and the Outback Saga and Siege Perilous, got rid of both of them. It turns out that when Dazzler was found, or they discovered Dazzler was back, Banshee and Forge, there was supposed to be a long story about finding Dazzler, and there was supposed to be a whole adventure before they brought her back, and Claremont changed the entire story quietly and had it go as a one-off, and she never returned until the 2000s, 2004, 2005, I think was the first time you saw Dazzler actually return as a full-time member to the X-Men. Even when Claremont wrote X-Men The End, he made sure Dazzler and Longshot got killed off.
Oh, wow.
He did not like those characters. So
you know that Longshot's actually the most powerful character in all of Marvel, right?
yeah, no shit. He's lucky. Nothing bad ever happens to him.
And as long as his motives are pure, he just gets more powerful.
Yeah.
But it's all balanced out because he's an idiot and doesn't know.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, he's a pure himbo, man.
He has no idea just how powerful he is, and he never will. I absolutely liked the fact that he was static. He didn't evolve as a character. He was two-dimensional.
Yeah.
I like that too, because it made him a cartoon character. He comes from a universe that's based on television. So, and he was cloned. He was created. So yeah, there's not going to be much more to him. He was the himbo.
So more about Jim Shooter?
Yes. Back to Jim.
Okay, well, that's all I have about the whole Jim Shooter thing.
Oh, really? I thought there was more about Jim Shooter.
No, just, I mean, I guess what I'm also trying to convey is, man, there was butting of heads between Shooter and Claremont from the jump. Now, if you want to talk about the Beyonder, yes, Jim Shooter The Beyonder is based on Jim Shooter all the way down to the clothes. Apparently, that's the clothing Jim Shooter wore in office.
He wore Michael Jackson suits?
Apparently, that was an actual thing. Also, the Beyonder was supposed to be the second most powerful character in the Marvel universe, and I'm sure that was Shooter's way of saying, haha, I'm the editor, and I'm only just one step down from God. So they made him the lamest character they possibly could. The Beyonder, in my opinion, is one of the most absolutely just bland villains. I mean, I guess he gave Spidey the black suit. Yay. I do remember that Shooter, or I'm sorry, not Shooter. The Beyonder dated Kitty Pryde at one point, which I thought was a little disturbing. That was during the San Francisco arc when they were living with Jessica Drew and Lindsay McCabe.
Oh, I don't remember that. I didn't see a lot of or I didn't read a lot of the San Francisco arc. I just remember when Phoenix went up against him.
So what you're saying is that the butting of heads produced good work.
Yes.
Imagine
oh my gosh, Phoenix Saga, and Dark Phoenix Saga. Pretty much all of they were always fighting. And, you watch Claremont's X-Men documentary and they don't want to come out and say they fucked up by pushing him out, because pushing him out led to Bob Harris. There was
ruined everything.
Yeah.
There was already Jim Lee had replaced Sylvester at this point. And Jim Lee really didn't like Claremont's writing style. And apparently, fans were getting tired of Claremont's writing style too, which blows my mind. This is so.
I never met those
Lee,
fans. Me neither.
I know, these are all classic X-Men posted shots of fan mail and the fan letters talking about how, oh my God, this is so stupid. Oh, the X-Men are lame now, blah, 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 blah. Because we all know there are those people out there that once something is really cool and popular, even if they secretly like it, they have to hate it. So they can look cool and different. And that's what was going on. I'm going to say that's what was going on, because people always say, until recently, because wokeism is dumb, the Claremont run was the best run. So you had Jim Lee comes onto this book, but is not happy with the Claremont arcs, and he wants to go to smaller contained stories, almost like Villain of the Week, where it's like every 2 or 3 issues are contained in one story. And fans apparently were bitching that there was too much Storm, and then they bitched that Storm was killed, and then Claremont brought her back as a preteen, and everybody bitched now that she was back as a preteen. It's like Claremont couldn't please anybody anymore. But with this directional shift and Jim Lee starting to become the rising star and starting to get equal power and eventually more power than Claremont, the stories that Claremont wanted to, like he said, there was supposed to be a finale to the Nanny and Orphan Maker story. That's always been one of my big bitches, is we never got the real ending of Nanny and Orphan Maker. And no, I don't count what writers have done now with Nanny and Orphan Maker, because that wasn't the correct ending. We didn't get the correct ending for Mr. Sinister either. So yeah, there was lots of storylines, and the Muir Island saga wasn't supposed to close off as fast as it did. But remember, at the end of the Muir Island saga, boom, what's the next issue that comes out? X-Men #1.
Yeah.
So just there was a lot of butting of heads creatively. The people at Marvel, the writers and artists and other editors and whatnot, got Shooter shoved out, and then they got Bob Harris, and it all became money style over substance.
Yeah.
And it just I've bitched about this so much, but it's like, you take all these young guns, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, John Byrne had to be brought in to help Will Portacio on Uncanny X-Men, because the guy didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
And Byrne only stayed for 3 issues before he said, I'm out.
Yeah, fuck this noise.
Well, the only reason the Omega Red story even holds together is because it was co-written by Burn.
Yeah. So, and I actually, that was the very first issue of X-Men I read, was the first appearance of Omega Red, and I will say Jim Lee's artwork actually did get me into X-Men. I'd never seen art like that before. I was
Right.
used to literally reading Archie comics and Sunday Funnies and seeing cartoons. So seeing Jim Lee's artwork, it was like, what the fuck? This is the most amazing stuff I've ever seen.
Well, no,
And so,
don't
yeah,
get me
I
wrong.
know.
The Omega Red story was a good arc and it delivered a lot. But of course, that was because you had a real writer on board.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But Claremont officially left after issue 3 of X-Men. He was gone, done. And as I have read more about stuff, I am gonna say Chris Claremont is at fault too for a lot of stuff.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
He actually, speaking of that diva behavior, he started having that diva behavior. Now, I do understand that he says in hindsight he should have protected X-Men, but at that point, editorial had stretched him so thin and put him in charge of so much stuff that he was burning out, even though he said he wasn't. He was. It's obvious.
Well, I think he was also hella disappointed that the 3 or 4 novels he wrote didn't go anywhere.
Oh,
Like,
the
even
ones
though,
about the female fighter pilot?
yeah,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
even advertised in Marvel Comics and they didn't go anywhere at all.
The only reason I knew those existed is a family I babysat for. The dad was a Chris Claremont fan, and I didn't even know about Chris Claremont yet at this point. I was 14 or 15, but I saw those books. And I looked at, and the cover of them said, by the greatest, I forgot it, by, world famous or greatest author of the X-Men. And I was like, X-Men? But yeah, I wasn't impressed flipping through them. I'm like,
My local comic book shop had those on the shelf, and they were still on the shelf when they went out of business.
He
Yeah,
also wrote
no.
the Willow follow-up novel.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, never heard of it. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Beyonder might have been based on Shooter, but he copied Captain America's body, except for his hair color, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that the Beyonder was based on Jim Shooter.
Yeah.
And I found that out, oh God, not too long ago. And then just to find out that the writers, like, he always seems so weak, because Steve and I talked about this. And he didn't know. I told him recently about, Beyonder being based on Jim Shooter. And my husband was like, oh, well, that explains a lot. And he said he was the most disappointing villain because he was the second most powerful, entity in the Marvel universe. And he was just so dumb and weak.
I didn't think
And
he was
so,
weak.
yeah. I don't know if the Beyonder was a Jim Shooter self-insert. I will say Jim Shooter did like doing a lot of self-insert stuff. I mean, he created the entire new Marvel New Universe
Yeah.
to be based around him and his like experiences growing up in Pittsburgh and stuff. And when Shooter was fired, the first thing they did in New Universe was turn Pittsburgh into a nuclear radiated crater of slag.
Wow, that's rude.
And then did everything they could to, mangle all of the characters that Shooter loved. Because I guess one of the main
That's petty.
characters who was
Wow.
powerful was a Jim Shooter insert, and they like killed him off after Shooter left too. I think that's one reason New Universe didn't take off like it was supposed to, because it was Shooter's pet project. But there was already so much tension and petty behavior and one-upsmanship between him and everybody else. They were purposely sabotaging the series. So yeah, and that's why I say,
I just didn't like any of those books.
well, I didn't read any of them at all. I was like, I can only afford X-Men.
How did Power Pack end up surviving the New Universe?
Oh, they didn't go into it.
No, they weren't into it.
Oh.
New Universe was a brand new universe, just like how the Ultimate Universe, that's what New Universe was, because Jim Shooter wanted to start a brand new superhero universe, but it took place in the actual real world. So it was like, what if the real world, but like superheroes show up? But they're not really superheroes. They're just super powered, ordinary people. And to me, that sounds dumb as fuck. I'm sorry.
It was dumb as fuck. It really was.
Yeah.
It was so much worse than anything Image did. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, the moment Shooter was gone, and I mean Shooter was pushing this series, and like from what I have read and heard, and this is allegedly, so I don't have solid info on this. He was pushing for the new universe to eventually replace the Marvel universe. That's what he wanted. Like I said, this is alleged. I don't know if this is apocryphal or not.
So his attitude, he got really arrogant, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but he wasn't the only one, because Claremont was getting arrogant too. And Byrne was already well known for being arrogant. I think because Marvel was on top for so long, it inflated the egos of all the guys that had helped bring massive success to the company.
Excuse me.
Power Pack was kind of destined to crumble like that. It was going to blow up.
Yeah.
Power Pack and Cloak and Dagger were both saved basically by the X-Men. They were both going the way of the dodo until they got involved with X-Men and X-Factor.
Yeah, because I remember at one point they even said Cloak and Dagger were actually mutants, and that their mutant gene was dormant until they got injected with that drug.
Yeah.
But then they retconned that again. I was like, they shouldn't have retconned that. I actually like
Oh my god.
2 mutants that kind of didn't belong anywhere. You know, sometimes they'd hang out with the Morlocks, and they're like, no, we don't belong with these underground outcasts. And sometimes they'd hang out with the X-Men. They're like, but we don't belong with these superheroes either.
Right.
And then the Power Pack, well, those 4 kids should have just been taken by CPS. The reason I say the kids should have been taken by CPS is because how long did it take before the parents found out their kids were moonlighting as superheroes? You got a fucking toddler out there. I'm not joking. It wasn't Katie Power, like the 3 or 4-year-old? She was a friggin' toddler. They got a toddler out there fighting.
She was 4. But to be fair, though, she once absorbed the power of Stormbreaker and Mjolnir to help Thor and Beta Ray Bill defeat Curse. So, I mean, she's pretty fucking powerful.
Yeah, but she's a toddler, man. Like, she should be in pre-K or TK, transitional kindergarten.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, what do you think what would have happened if Shooter had not gotten the boot?
I think we would have got the MCU a lot earlier.
I think we would have gotten the MCU a lot earlier. I do still think that it would have come to a head between Claremont and Shooter, and you might have actually seen Claremont leave. I'm not quite sure, but if Shooter, I mean, you have to remember it from what has been said. It sounded like the entire Marvel office shoved him out. They hated him so much.
Well, he was conservative.
Well, not only was he conservative, but
was that it?
No, it was
not
also
enough.
He kept everybody on a tight leash. He called bluffs.
Yep.
But like I said, his ego got really big, and that's how the new universe was born. And all of a sudden, self-inserts, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And I think they shouldn't have gotten rid of him. What they should have done is fucking knocked him down a few pegs. But also done the same with Claremont, Byrne, and the others. Like, hey, you guys need to stop, because if you don't stop, we might lose everything we've gained. I mean, by this point, nobody knew if DC was going to be able to make it. I mean, by 1991, they had killed off Superman to get readers and money.
Yep.
I know this because my dad bought me The Death of Superman, because Superman had died. It was such a huge event. It made international news, but they were so desperate, they killed off one of their Holy Trinity. Because
before they'd made a bunch of money by killing off Jason Todd. So, I mean, they just saw dollar signs.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, killing off their characters. But I mean, I don't think DC was in a good place because Marvel was curb stomping them left and right. And then you have to also remember Dark Horse had shown up, and they named themselves Dark Horse because they weren't part of the big two. And they started bringing manga into mainstream Western audiences. And they were licensed to do Star Wars. Marvel didn't have the license to do Star Wars anymore.
And then Aliens, and then Predator, and
and Grendel.
Yeah.
So
and then Hellboy.
all the alt comic books that were, for mature readers. Now, I will say that DC also got smart and created Vertigo around this time too. They were already kind of doing it. But it wasn't Vertigo yet. They would just put, for mature audiences, because I believe that Swamp Thing under Alan Moore had gone mature audiences. Green Arrow had actually been switched to mature audiences at this point. That's the Longbow Hunter story arc was actually, not only that, Neil Gaiman was testing the waters, and I know Vertigo was actually really created for him, and I don't understand why people suck Neil Gaiman's figurative dick, but that's not what we're going to talk about.
I never got that.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, people. I never got into Sandman. Couldn't read it, didn't think it was good. I did like his Black Orchid story. I actually have Black Orchid, but I really got it for the art more than the story. But yeah, I'm sorry. I never could get into Sandman. And I think it's also because a bunch of my friends were just like huge Neil Gaiman fans and would slobber all over his dick and always talk about Sandman or something else that he fucking wrote. And I was just like, I have no interest. Because it's 7 powerful siblings who are fighting with each other because they're all kind of spoiled brats. Got it. Oh, and some of them are rapists. Really not interested.
That sounds like the Umbrella Academy.
No, the Umbrella Academy is a total ripoff of the Sandman series. I don't know why people said Gerard Way. Is that his name?
I'm not sure.
The lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
Well, you all know my feelings about Gaiman, and it's personal, so I'm not going to chime in here.
And somebody had also said Grant Morrison had popped up at DC. Yeah, Buddy Smith, because Animal Man and Doom Patrol were also for mature audiences at that point.
I liked Animal Man.
So,
it was not too bad.
Animal Man was actually good, surprisingly, but I can't get past Doom Patrol in the transvestite city.
I'm good.
Yeah, Grant Morrison. Yeah, I'm going to really revolutionize things. Check this shit out. You took DMT and then decided to write it down.
Oh, I was right. It is Gerard Way. Okay, Grendel was the shit, and I remember when I was first introduced to Grendel. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to do a little side trip before I have to take off and go to a seminar.
Oh.
Yeah, this will be a short one.
Yeah, sorry guys. I have seminar for I didn't go last week because I was sick, but I have to go this week and for the next 2 weeks. So our X-Men shows are going to be a little short, but I've pretty much given out all my information. But here's my Grendel story. I think you guys will appreciate it, especially if you grew up in the 90s. So, this is when all the alt comic books were really coming out, and there was this one group of kids that would sit at a table, and I didn't have friends at this point. My friend group turned out to be crappy, and so I left, and they didn't like that I left. So they said they would kick my ass if they saw me, but they were kind of psycho. And these guys were sitting there. I noticed they're reading comic books. And I was like, oh, hey, what are you reading? Because I read X-Men. They're like, oh, yeah, come over here, but don't let them see. And it was the Grendel Prime series. And they were all standing around the scene where Susan Varigan is having sex with Crystal. I'd never seen that in a comic before. And I was like, oh, my God. And I'm like, do you have any more? And they hand me the entire They snuck out the stack, and I sat with these guys for like a week, and I read. That's how I was introduced to Grendel. I read the Grendel Prime arc, and I was like, "Wait, there's comics like this too." Unfortunately, I couldn't get them because I was underage, and my mom nor my dad would buy me anything that said for adult audiences only. So I had to wait till I was an adult to get the Grendel Prime Omnibus.
I never even seen a Grendel, so I don't know.
Oh, Kronk. I don't
Yeah.
know if you would like the later series, but at least the first one with Hunter Rose, you might like, because it's from the point of view of a villain who is a sociopath, a quote unquote hero who's actually an egotistic narcissist, and a poor orphaned little girl who's stuck in the middle between their friggin' dick swinging contest, who they mentally break at the end. And it's the first time I've seen where it's like you're seeing it like, hey, the behaviors of villains and heroes on children can really fuck them up, because it does.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. Argent was the werewolf's name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Argent Wolf.
Argent Wolf, and I'm reading this, I'm like, this guy is supposed to be the big hero. And I'm like, no, something's off with this dude. And as the story went on, I was like, yeah, this guy's ego cannot handle the fact that Grendel can keep outsmarting him. But their arrogance and their ego just destroys everyone at the end. It's just, yeah. Yeah, Pat's right. It's what if Bruce Wayne runs the city as an organized crime ring instead of as a vigilante detective?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he's chaotic neutral through and through.
Oh, yeah. He's only cared about really one person. No, two, because he does care about his adoptive daughter, but the love of his life, was it Jocasta Rose was her name? The fencing instructor that groomed him?
Yeah.
Dude's a 15-year-old genius at this point, and he gets groomed by the greatest fencing instructor in the world. I mean, the way it's written is, it's from Hunter's point of view. So he's talking about all they did was make love all day and only go out to eat, and they would drink wine and read poetry. But you, as the reader reading it, you're like, this is a 30-something-year-old woman who is sexually assaulting a child. And in his head, it's, this is the fantasy. But as the reader, like, oh, no, this is bad.
To him, it's a romantic fantasy. Yeah, no.
Well, when
we gross.
Next week we'll talk a bit about Grendel. Then, even though this is an X-Men show, we'll talk about Grendel.
Oh,
I got some information about that. What you're talking about that is going to put it in a new light.
Okay. I'll talk anything about Grendel. My favorite arcs, I like all of it, but my favorite arcs are Orion's Reign and Grendel Prime, because Grendel Prime was the first one I read. So I will go nuts over those.
Hunter Rose was Matt.
Matt Wagner.
Yeah, Matt Wagner's essentially idealized self.
Oof.
In his youth, that's what he wanted to be.
Oh, that's still oof.
So that's what he desired.
Oh God, no, because Hunter Rose isn't a good person. Like, automatically, I'm just like, dude, this guy's evil. So that's kind of scary. Also explains why him and his son have TDS, I think. Yeah.
Oofta.
Yeah, they actually got me to stop reading Grendel because of that alien version of Donald Trump, all the way down to the hair and the bad tan and him saying bigly. I was like, I'm out.
I mean, it's like, if you're gonna satirize someone, at least be clever about it.
They can't anymore. They can't.
No, I couldn't believe it. I was waiting for this big payoff of Grendel Prime to fight this awesome leader from another alien species, and it was literally a tubby, short alien with blue hair, but the style of Donald Trump, coming out and saying bigly. And I closed the book. I was like, we're done. I don't even care. I know he's going to kill him because, whatever, but good fucking Lord. I don't care.
Exactly.
I wanted to see a violent Grendel fight. But no.
I can bring up examples of what I mean by you can do a story like that and make it clever. Sure. But again, you've got to run off to kick some ass, right?
Oh, no, I'm learning to kick some ass. I will not be kicking ass tonight.
Learn to kick some ass. All right.
Yes.
You will become a weapon.
Yes. So hopefully I will have some more little tidbits. But until then, yes, let's plan on Grendel next week. That's going to be exciting.
All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining us. And if you haven't already, I highly suggest you highly urge that you go subscribe to the Rumble channel.
Yes.
I'm going to put up a link real quickly because Rumble's letting me do something that.
Wait, I can't hear you, Ishi. You sound very far away.
He's drowning. Somebody save him.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, there
yes.
he is.
Okay, link has gone up. For ages, you guys have wanted me to do a show about music and to play the songs. I mean, there used to be a time when I talked a lot about music on the show, but we finally gave up because anytime I tried to play anything for you, I immediately got banned and they'd kill the stream. Well, guess what? Rumble doesn't do that. And I've got a Nothingcast music stream posted.
Why didn't you send me a link? You know I would have been in on that shit. I would have totally come on and discussed music with you.
You want to do it next Tuesday?
Fuck yes!
Okay. Check the link out then, listen to it when you can, and you'll get a sense of what the show is like. But yeah, I'm going to make this a regular thing, and I'll talk about music history, my own experiences in the music industry, and I'll answer your questions about music in the 90s.
Music in the 90s was the best.
And it's got the college DJ element where, like last Tuesday, I did the first show where I would talk about a band, why I picked it, and then I'd play 2 of their songs, talk about another band, why I picked it, play 2 songs, and you get 2 hours of that. And for the first show, give me a second, I played, here's the set list. ChemLab, Suicide Jag, and Chemical Halo, Eminem, Sing for the Moment, D12 Revelation, Gary Newman, Our Friends Electric, and Down in the Park, Devo, What We Do, and Jocko Homo, The Cure, 100 Years and Strange Day, Clock DVA, Technogeist, and Voice Recognition Test, Frontline Assembly, Biomechanic and Gun, and then Ministry, So What? So that gives you a sense of what you're in for.
Dude, we got to talk about ChemLab's Derailer.
Oh, sure.
Not only is Derailer good, but every single remix of Derailer is just as good. And I listen to Derailer when I practice.
Derailer's a great fucking song. And the other cool thing about Derailer, and we'll talk about this on the show then, is that answering machine message is real. At the beginning. I'll tell you the story of where that came from because Jared told me about it.
No shit. Yeah, I thought that was from like a movie or something.
No, that was an actual answering machine message left on his machine.
What the fuck, man?
I'll tell you about it later. But okay, everyone, thank you for joining.
Oh, and before we go, please buy Ishi's books and also please go out and buy Raltz's books. I think that would help him very much right now. But yes, also, as Kronk likes to say, please get your hands on Ishi's boobs of steel.
Link in the description is the best pop culture book you will ever read, and you'll learn a lot.
And like the video.
Right. Yeah, like and subscribe and all that junk.